of these Confucius Institutes. Tell us what they are, how it works, and what their aim is.
Well, they've been around since about 2004, so they've been around a while, but they've been quite quiet. Their formal mission is to teach people about language and culture, and they have classes in Tai Chi and paper cutting and all sorts of very harmless activities. But the informal mission, it seems, is part of a wider pattern of ensuring that the Beijing narrative is adhered to by everyone. So there's the sort of the formal and the informal side of the Confucius Institutes, and what we're concerned about is the informal side of these institutes. And as you mentioned, there's 30 in the UK. We have 12 currently operating in universities in Australia. America had over 150, but they've been scaling them back, so they've only got about 25% of those in America at the moment. So the countries around the world are waking up very quickly now to the dangers that these institutes pose.
So they pay money, do they not, to educational establishments which will allow them to set up on their grounds, in their campus, in their building?
They do. The universities don't pay a cent or any money at all. The Confucius Institutes, as you say, occupy a building, occupy the premise of the university, and they do their own thing. What we found out in Australia in 2019 was that a number of our universities had signed very profitable agreements with these Confucius Institutes, which meant that Beijing was controlling what was taught on Australian campuses. It effectively meant that the Chinese Communist Party had control over what was being taught in Australia, which obviously raises a very, very serious concerns about academic freedom and everything else. Now, this was actually very useful because it encouraged the government to do a very, very deep dive inquiry into what was going on in Australian campuses. And what it came up with was quite terrifying. Hundreds of pages of the ASIO basically saying, we are worried that where there is so much espionage on Australian campuses that it's more than we've had since the Cold War. I mean, it's that serious.
When you say espionage, what do you mean exactly by that?
So the Confucius Institutes are the idea and the general agreement is that the Confucius Institutes are serving as vehicles for industrial and military espionage.
And so this is, I mean, there's so many stories these days which I just end up laughing at, Bella, because you can't actually believe what you're hearing. So this is effectively organisations, individuals paying to be on university campuses. The people that then work for them are able to access information about in this case, about Australia, but we can possibly assume that this is happening here, information which might be of use to the Chinese government and therefore put us at some sort of risk. That's what's happening here.
That is exactly what's happening. And this is why the Australian government has been taking it so seriously, and they have set up a commission to look into it. And as I mentioned, it's a report that came out in March, which is an inquiry into national security and the risks affecting higher education and research. And the conclusion was that there's a large-scale foreign interference at universities coming from one country in particular, and because they wouldn't, apparently it's a C word, the C word is China, they wouldn't actually mention it, but everyone knows that this is where it's coming from. So very interestingly, one of the submissions was from a diplomat who defected to Australia in 2005, and he basically said, this is how Beijing is infiltrating our universities. This is soft power. This is part of their global propaganda strategy. This is it's very clear.
And they've basically bought the complicit cooperation of weak-minded people working in universities who have turned a blind eye. The other thing as well, because it's not just about the espionage risk, Bella, I would also say it's about the ideological risk, because aren't there certain topics that cannot be discussed according to their diktats? And that's the 3 Ts. Tell us what they are.
Taiwan. If you're testing me, and I've forgotten what they are. It was in my article from
Taiwan,
3 years ago.
Tibet.
That's unfair.
Sorry, that was mean. Taiwan, Tibet,
Taiwan, Tibet, and
Tiananmen Square.
Tiananmen Square. Of
So,
course.
in other words,
so yes, this is so they've actually said that they could. So one university here wanted to show a film about the Confucius Institutes, perhaps saying that they're not all they're cracked up to be, and the Confucius Institute had enough power to stop that film being shown. There are many instances of academics in Australia who have wanted to mention, who have mentioned Taiwan in the wrong way, and the university has come down on those academics. They've been told by Beijing that their academics are not allowed to say something. This is incredibly serious, and this is why I'm very grateful that the government is actually taking this seriously now. And I think the UK should follow suit and should do what America is doing and just close them all down.